You have us both in?
Both.
Okay, I can edit it too. So my name is Pam Zerber. I'm interviewing my father, Horst Zerber, who grew up during World War II in Germany, and I think his story is pretty interesting. So I wanted to interview him and just let everybody know a little bit about his story. So, Dad, welcome
Thank
to
you.
Chat with Pamela.
Okay.
So I wanted to have you tell us your story about when you were a young boy, how it was for you growing up, what things that you saw in Germany, things like that. So what can you tell us about your experience?
Well, actually, I was born right now. At that time, it was Germany. I mean, in Germany, it was called Pommern, and now it went back to Poland. Like it's former East Germany, since Poland took half of it after the Second World War, and I grew up. I was raised on a farm, like a large dairy farm, and once the war broke out, like the Russians took over, and they asked us if we wanted to stay there, we would have to work the farm for them or leave. So we decided to leave. We with my two brothers, my father, my mother, and my grandmother and my grandfather.
How old were you at that time?
At that time, I was 9 years old, and whatever we could pack on a wagon, we packed on a wagon, and all of us went to the west, try to get to the west, where there's West Germany. We used to be West Germany, now it's all Germany. And during the trip, like my grandmother died in a wagon.
I didn't know that.
I didn't want to say anything, but since you, but but we had to do, like the next town or so, we had to leave her there, and she was buried there, and we went on it took us about 2.5 days, 3 days to get to the western part of Germany, and then we went to like a camp for displaced persons, and from there, whoever came from Pommern, everybody was displaced to a different town, to a different city. So we were displaced to Schleswig-Holstein, that's on the Baltic Sea. And we actually, we lived in a hotel. There used to be a hotel, but they renovated for displaced persons, and we lived there for 4 years. And from there, that's where actually that's why I started to become a chef. I worked in a hotel in a kitchen when I was 12 years old.
And was your dad in the hotel with you?
My dad, he wasn't with us. My dad, he got captured in Russia. He was in Russian prison camp for 6 years, and he came back in 1948, after the war was over, like 44, and he came back in 1948, and from there my parents moved to Dortmund.
But how did your father find you? Like after 6 years, did you think that he had died, or like what? That's a long time to not hear from somebody.
We had information through actually the Red Cross. It's the same like the Red Cross here. They contacted us that he was alive, but they didn't know where he was. and just about a month before, for 1948, I don't exactly know what month it was when he came home, but they contacted us that he was coming home. So he came home in 1948. We saw him for the first time in actually 7 years, because he was in, in Russia for, I don't know, about 2 years or so. He was in, during the Second World War, he was in France first, and he got injured in France, and then they moved him to Russia. And at that time, like, you know, I went to school, and the name of the town that I spent most of my teenage years in, Dahme, that's right on the Baltic Sea. And from there, I wanted to become a chef. So my parents, in the meantime, like I served my apprenticeship, I went for my apprenticeship already 6 months to 8 months or so. And my parents from there, from Dahme, they moved to Dortmund. That's in the middle of Germany, like near Düsseldorf. And they asked me if I wanted to come with them. They said, you don't have to, you can stay here, but if you do stay here, you don't come home and not finish your apprenticeship.
And how old were you at that time?
At that time I was 16.
Okay.
And so I stayed there and finished my apprenticeship, and my parents moved to Dortmund, and and I served my apprenticeship in about 50 miles away from where I grew up as a teenager, in one of the oldest hotels in Germany. And you have to serve your apprenticeship in order to get your diploma. It's almost like going to college, because if you don't graduate, you won't get a diploma. You have to go an extra year to get the diploma to graduate. And I graduated in 1955, and in 1955, just before in my second year of graduation, I mean, my apprenticeship, a fellow from Plainville, Connecticut, his father, he had a restaurant. His name was Eric Lexius, and his father was born in the town where I served my apprenticeship, and they stayed in that same hotel while I was visiting. And then Eric asked me if once I finished my apprenticeship, if I wanted to come to the United States and work for him. I said, I don't know. I said, I'll see. I said, at that time, English was mandatory in school, so you couldn't, I couldn't speak any English whatsoever. So I finally decided, yes, I'm coming. So all the paperwork you had to go through, like get a visa, get like immigration papers and all that. And not only that, Eric Lexus, he was my sponsor, because at that time, like, you have to have a sponsorship. If you didn't have a sponsor, you couldn't come to the United States. So he was actually, if something happened to me or whatever, he was responsible for me. You know, if I got sick or this or that, he would have to pay for that. So I came over on the SS America, and I had to, like, he paid for the passage on the ship, and I had to pay them back. It was $205 at that time, in 1955. So when I came to the United States, like into we got into New York, and he picked me up at the airport, and then we
At the
drove.
airport or the boat?
Oh, I mean at the.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did you come through Ellis Island?
No, not
No?
Ellis Island, right on the dock in New York.
And how long was the travel on the boat?
On the boat was 5 days, and I was sick. I was sick for 3 days, seasick, because we had worse storms. It was in May, on May 23rd, I came to the United States, and we started in Bremerhaven, Germany. From Bremerhaven we went to France, Le Havre, France. From Le Havre, France, went to Southampton, England. From Southampton we went to Cape Cod, not Cape Cod, Cobb, the town was Cobb, and southern part of Ireland, but at that they did not have the dock where the boat could dock. They would have to put a launch, people on the launch, and the sea was so high that they couldn't bring any passengers on. So we just took off and went on the way out to New York, and like I said, then I got picked up in New York by Eric Lexus, and started to work for him in his restaurant. And at that time it was a Monopole restaurant, okay? And I worked for him for, let's see, about a year. And after that I went back to Germany for about 3 months to visit. And then I came back, and from when I came back, I started to work at Travelers Insurance Company. I opened up the Tower Dining Room in Hartford. Travelers Insurance Company only cooked for the executives and governors and so forth. A lot of movie stars, they used to do advertisement for travelers.
Any names that we would know of movie stars?
Well, you probably know, like Celeste Holmes, you probably never heard of her. And then Paladin, Gary Moore, and quite a few other dignitaries, like about 4 or 5 governors, and from there, the Travelers Insurance Company, they asked me, they had an opening in Montreal, Canada. They're going to put a new building up there, or in California, in San Francisco. And they asked me to go there and open it for them. But in the meantime, I met my wife. She was still in high school, and I had a room like next house over from the restaurant, and I came to visit like where the restaurant, the Monopole where I worked. Some of the waitresses there were still there, while I was working there. So I came to visit, and that's how I met my wife Judy. And from there, I don't know. I mean, it's just and like about 2 years later, her parents had the restaurant after that, at that time, and but how many years later, I don't know, but 2 or 3 years later, like her parents wanted to retire, so they asked if we
Yeah.
wanted to buy it.
Okay.
And we were there for 35 years, and now, I mean, plus I worked for Holiday Corporation after that, after I sold the restaurant. I worked for them for 18 years, and Holiday Retirement has assisted living facilities, like 350 nationwide. They have 30 facilities here in Florida, and I worked for them for 18 years. I not really retired. I was moving to Florida, and I asked them if there are any facilities close to the villages,
Yeah.
and they said yes. There's 4 in Orlando and 1 in Ocala, and they asked me if I wanted to fill in instead of leaving the company to work there part-time. But it's 23 miles away from here, so I decided not to go there, and that's about it.
So we have a few questions from some of our viewers that are here with us today.
Yeah.
So Mary, you have a question for my dad?
Audience participation.
Yes.
Yes.
She has a list of them.
When your father came back after being in prison, when your mother found out that he was alive,
Yeah.
and he came back, how was she? Was she excited? Was she?
Yeah, we
Do you remember?
were all excited, but he probably like his normal weight was usually around say 135 pounds, but he was like 170 pounds or so because he's all full of water. Like I mean,
Why?
all like
Why full of
Bloated.
water?
He was
I don't know
bloated?
from. I mean, whatever they
No
ate,
food.
they food they gave him or whatever, but it was like everything was like.
Did he ever tell you guys what happened to him while he was in the prison? How they treated them?
Yeah, actually too. They at first they treated him pretty good, but then after it was just all he needed. They just gave him all, like mostly potatoes and no hardly any meat or dairy or anything. So I mean, they just ate like that.
Potatoes and water.
Yeah, potatoes and water.
Now,
And that's
I
Did he
remember-
have to work?
Did he have to work when he was in prison?
he never mentioned it, so he just,
And did when he was captured or before he was captured, was he shot? He was shot at one point, right? And
he was shot. No, he was shot in France. When he was in
Okay.
France, and then they got like his whole outfit got captured. They ran out of ammunition, and what they did, they have like your canteens and all that. They took the covers off and threw them in the air, and the Russians, they thought, they still had a lot of ammunition, but from the sun, from the glare, they didn't know what it was, so they lasted another day, and that's
wow.
And so how did you learn English?
I learned English like mostly by watching TV,
Okay.
like newspaper, or talking to somebody, or then I ask them, like how they pronounce this and this, like that.
So you taught yourself.
And
Judy helped.
She
So when you first
had a
met
little
Judy,
influence on it.
when you first met Judy, how was your English?
But
When
it was pretty good. Like I could
What is-
after a year, after I was here a year, like I said, if I can't speak it within a year, I'm going back.
Oh.
So I said, plus I another thing too, like in 1956, 57, I had a room with a friend of mine, and he was born here, but his parents were German, came from Germany, and he went into the service, and he asked me if I wanted to go, and the recruiter for the service, Army, he said, if you serve in the service, after 6 months, 9 months, you become a citizen, automatically become a citizen. But it was not true. I just got in there, and I had to wait 5 years to become a citizen. And I was stationed in Fort Dix, and I jumped 3 ranks in 6 months, from private to a sergeant, because
Wow.
I was like not really in charge, but second in charge of the consolidated mess hall.
Oh.
So we had 3 consolidated mess halls. So like one mess hall would feed 1,000 soldiers, you know. And then they wanted me to re-enlist for 3 more years and go back to Germany on the 3rd Armored Division. Go back to Germany, I said, I just came from there. They said, so I said,
No, thank you.
I'll go. I had a choice to either re-enlist or go in Army Reserve. So I went to, instead, 8 years in Army Reserve.
Okay,
And that's it.
that's great.
Go ahead.
So way back when during the war, when did you say Poland took over Germany? Why were you pushed out of your house?
Because the Russians came
Russians.
and occupied that part of Germany,
Okay.
up to Berlin.
Okay.
And the Americans came up to this side.
Okay.
The English and the Americans. So Berlin was that section. Then became East Germany.
Now was America and England trying to help you people, or were we not being good back then?
No, like actually the German people, you know, like the West, they surrendered and all that, and they
To Russia. Surrendered to Russia. And that's why Russia came in and took over everything.
yeah, and like then Russia occupied East Germany, and the English and the United States they went the western part of Germany.
How was that as a young boy?
Huh?
How was that as a young boy?
A young boy was very bad. I mean, like
Scared.
it's especially
How
like,
scary was that?
2 years, you know, like about a year and a half of Russian occupation. At that time, I was like 8 years old, like so 8, 9
And
years
did
old.
you have friends that
Well,
you went to school with, and you had to leave all your friends and?
Yeah, oh yeah, everything. You just
He went to
you
school
left-
in a one room school with a thatched roof. It's still standing today.
yeah.
I don't know if it still holds school children, but it's still standing.
Well, like
Wow.
they're like well, where I grew up, like when I was a teenager, like it's like a summer resort, it's right on the Baltic Sea, and the population probably was about 1,000 people, but in the summertime, you know, you had about 15,000, 20,000. You know?
So so as an 8-year-old boy, were you scared? Was it scary for you? And did you guys have plenty of food to eat? And
No, we didn't have. Like actually, like while we're still in Pommern, while we're still there, while under Russian occupation, like I went to beg for food from the Russians, so I know if they had some sugar or flour
How
or
did
potatoes.
they treat you when you were begging
Huh?
for food? How did they treat you?
They treated me nice, and
They
I
did,
could almost
okay.
speak fluent Russian at that time within 1 year, because I went always, when you're younger, you you languish so fast, you know.
Yes.
He sang for food.
No, and then after, like, we went to Dahmer, like,
You went college.
like my father was in prison camp, and my mother, she had to take care of 3 young boys, plus she took care of my father's brother. He was 3 years younger than I was, and he was also displaced, so he came to live with us. And when my brothers and my uncle, we went to different farms around the neighborhood, like 15 miles or so. We used to go beg for food.
Now, when
We
you were,
used to sing and to get to beg, you know.
when you were begging for food around that time, what was it like where you were living? The house or the apartment what you were living in, what was it like
It was like actually 2 rooms. That's it.
for all those people?
Yeah. 2 rooms, like you slept like 2 in a bed all the time. You know what I mean?
And was there a bathroom, indoor plumbing?
There was a bathroom in there. Yeah.
Oh, good, okay.
And do you know what, when you were leaving Germany, what your grandmother passed away from? How did she die?
No. No.
He was probably too young to.
Excuse me. No.
Do you know how old she was at the time?
She was about 85 or something.
Oh, wow.
Almost mother.
Yeah. My mother's mother,
Yeah.
like my father's mother. When you were there, you saw her, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Take a picture of that. I want an 8 by 20.
Do you have any other questions for him?
No. Anybody have any questions?
I was
Kelly?
curious about the war, like how you survived, how you couldn't.
And what about, so what, you know, one of the
From one
things
day
that you
to the
told me
next.
when they asked people to leave, how it was horrible, how the tanks came in and they were, like
Oh
that
yeah,
was,
like on the way from the east to the west to go to the west, like we're in a wagon, and the Russian tanks, like if you were in the middle, or if you didn't pull over, the tanks just rolled over the wagon, the horses, and everything.
Across the river, you
Oh
went
my
in the water.
God.
Yeah.
Did you saw that happen?
Yeah, oh yeah. Like one wagon was on a little bridge or so, and they came, and then we just went over the bridge, maybe 3 or 4 wagons ahead of them, and the tank came and pushed them right over in the water, like everything.
Like they were nothing.
like it was nothing,
Yeah.
just in the way.
Not only that, even myself, like when the next door farm, like most of the farms, you had your house here, and then maybe another house was about 100, 200 feet. Another farmer's house was there, but your land was all outside, you know. And when the Russians came, next to the next farm over, there were two young twin girls around 16 years old. The Russians came and they all the women used to hide from the Russians. They didn't want to go with them, and they just shot them, just killed them.
And you knew these girls?
Yeah.
They were friends of yours?
Yeah. Well, it's people don't realize war is. I mean, some people are good, and some people are fanatics that you can't, they just, it's in any culture, like Germany, at that time too, the SS, they were like, if you didn't, say, especially the Jewish people, they, like if you hit like a Jewish person, they shoot you just like them. And not only that, all the concentration camps, like we were about 100 miles from Auschwitz, and most of the German people, they didn't even know that existed. Only with maybe somebody within 10-15 miles that knew. All they said it was workers' camp,
Working camp.
but they didn't. Nobody knew what was going on there.
You didn't know back then either, right?
No.
So what did everybody think was happening with the Jewish people? They were just being taken away to a work camp
Yeah,
to
that's
work.
it. That's it. And like even I have some Jewish friends, and their parents got killed. Here, and their parents got killed, in one of those camps. It's terrible.
And so how was it like when Opa was fighting the Russians against the Russians? Who was he fighting for? Like, was he in Hitler's army because he had no choice, or?
Yeah, but that's all of us under Hitler. The whole army was under.
So he was fighting for Hitler because he had no choice against the Russians.
Yeah, that's that's just like if who you're fighting for in the United States for Trump, right? The same thing.
So so he had no choice.
No choice. No.
You're fighting for your country,
Right.
but he happens to be the head of the country and he's a nut job.
And
Kind of like Trump.
we'll edit that part out.
Yeah, but actually, like when Hitler first became like a president of Germany or whatever, he was pretty good for the first 2 years before the war started. He wanted every person, every home to have a car. That's what it means, Volkswagen.
Folk, meaning folks. It's for the folks.
Yeah, everyone does.
Volkswagen.
But then
wagon
after
is
he
a
was
car.
like a fanatic. That's it.
And what made you decide to become a chef?
Well, because I worked in a hotel where we lived,
Washing dishes.
part-time, like,
You decided you liked it?
peeling potatoes, doing this, and starting to cook a little bit there, and I enjoyed it, and that's it.
Was your mother a good cook?
Yeah, she was a very good cook, yeah. Like, even myself, like, I had a job offers before I came to the United States. I had job offers in Sweden and Denmark and in Switzerland. So, and not only that, when I came over on the SS America, there was like 6 of us on the table. They're all trying to to relocate in the United States. I'm the only one that stayed here. All the rest of them went back.
Really? Do you know why they went back?
I guess
you know their
they
stories?
just didn't,
Didn't
just
work
like I said myself, if I can't speak it off, if I can't, it makes no sense.
All right. Well, that's a fascinating story.
Huh?
Thanks, Dad.
All right, Pam.
All right, thank you.
See, if I didn't come here, I wouldn't have you,
That's true.
right?
Yeah.
No, if he